It's all about hypocrisy. Your actions speak louder than your words. The words are provide and protect. The actions are all of those people. They are my property and my tools to stroke my ego, to enrich my life, and whatever else is happening.
And I don't feel like provide and protect is something I'm needing to deconstruct lest I be a misogynist. I resonate with it on a deep level. You are listening to the Phallacies Podcast, Episode 6, Providers and Protectors.
Fallacies, 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 fallacies.
All right. Well, hello and welcome to the Phallacies Podcast. We're here to challenge and deconstruct ideas, beliefs, prejudices, misconceptions, aka fallacies, about what it means to be a man.
That's right. And our quote at the beginning of the show every single time is a quote from our man Gottlieb Frege, who said, "Often it is only after immense intellectual effort, which may have continued over centuries, that humanity at last succeeds in achieving knowledge of a concept in its pure form by stripping off the irrelevant accretions which veil it from the eye of the mind."
Yes, love that quote. That's what we're here to do. So what are we talking about today?
Today, our topic is providers and protectors.
Ooh, baby.
Yep, that's one we all know intimately, controversially, all the things.
Yeah, it's one I'm a little fired up about.
Mm-hmm.
As a former conservative, I think I may still hold to some of those ideas, but I think my opinion on this has changed drastically over the last 5 years. What about you?
I'll be representing the traditional side. You'll be representing progressive. And I think that there are good points that need to be made from both sides. So I'm excited to get into this and to Steelman my particular take.
Me too. I mean, just in chatting in preparation and us getting like fired up and heated about it makes me excited to get in the ring.
We had an hour and 20-minute phone call earlier today just arguing about how our points were coming together and rewriting. So
yeah, what did you call me? A fucking pathetic soy boy bitch ass or
that's
something
right.
like that?
I'm getting into character.
Well, okay. Well,
Yep.
We'll see.
Yeah. So the way that we are framing provider and protector is kind of loosely, is this helpful? The language, the ideal, the gender roles in general, are they helpful or harmful to society, to men, to women, to all the things?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, what do you think about getting in the ring?
Let's do it, baby.
All right.
Okay. To our man?
To Gottlieb.
To Gottlieb. Tequila today, which you do not like tequila. But that's all I had.
I used to like it until that time I did 16 tequila shots in about 3 hours.
Oh my gosh.
And I didn't really like it anymore after that.
Asking for trouble.
Yeah, well, it was trouble.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do it.
Great. Let's hear it.
Regarding men embracing the role of provider and protector, I'm going to be Steelmanning the traditional take. It would be descriptive to say that men are providers and protectors, and it would be prescriptive to say that men should be providers and protectors, and I'm going to be adamantly defending both of those. I'm arguing that it should be universally understood and societally embraced to view men as being providers and protectors at the highest masculine ideal. Not as one option among many, but as the cultural standard. And I'm going to make 4 points for why. Point 1 is that traditional gender roles produce better outcomes, and we should organize our society around what works. When men embrace provider and protector roles, and women embrace nurturing and caregiving roles, families are more stable, children do better, and both partners report higher levels of satisfaction in their life. This is measurable in countless studies across many different cultures and throughout history. We should stop pretending all arrangements are equally good. They're not. The data shows traditional roles work best for most people, so that should be our cultural ideal. Point 2, biology supports men in these roles, and aligning with biology produces better results than fighting against it. Men have higher testosterone, greater upper body strength, lower neuroticism. Women have higher oxytocin, better emotional intelligence, natural maternal instincts. But here's what's most obvious. Women are vulnerable during pregnancy. And then the child is born. And after the child is born, a woman's body is literally equipped to take care of that baby for about 2 years. This is almost a 3-year window where the woman is more vulnerable and more capable of raising young kids. And then if you factor in that a family that wants to have multiple children, well, then that window could span to be about 10 years, where a woman is more fit to raise the children, while a man remains more capable to go out and do the hard work to bring home the resources for the family to sustain. Point 3, the identity of being a provider and a protector. It gives men purpose by orienting them towards serving others rather than themselves. Being a provider and a protector is an identity marker that a man can identify with and build his life around. It's a sense of direction in life. It helps him better understand what he is and why he is. Men are tools that need and love to be pointed at a problem. And if you take away that task and you take away the purpose, you will have a man who feels lost, not unlike the millions of men who we currently see today struggling to understand their place in this world. Speaking of which, men are currently going through an identity crisis. It's part of the reason we have this podcast. And you can't solve an identity crisis by taking away identity markers. Here's what nobody wants to admit. Hey, it's okay to develop values around a group that you were born into. If Americans say, hey, we value freedom and liberty, that's not claiming that other nations are incapable of freedom. It's just defining what we prioritize. If women say that we value emotional intelligence and connection, nobody is going to call them sexist man-haters. So why the fuck is it problematic when men say that we value providing and protecting for others? Provider and protector isn't a biological mandate. It's not a cage. It's just an orientation towards others. It takes men out of their selfish thinking and directs them towards service. It gives them purpose that's bigger than themselves. It answers the question, what purpose can I serve and how can I do right by others? Some people will try to discredit this as some sort of a savior complex. They'll say it's self-serving to provide and protect for others, that it's all about ego. But that's the same cynical, bad faith argument that you could make about any philanthropist, any social worker, any person who dedicates themselves to help others. It's just prejudice masquerading as insight. At the end of the day, a man who focuses on serving others, providing what they need, protecting them from harm, that's a better man for his family and for society at large than one who only serves himself. There's no argument to be made against that. So to close, men and women are different, but those differences are not oppressive. They're complementary. The provider and protector ideal isn't perfect, I know, but it's a hell of a lot better than the vacuum that we have created.
Well, let's talk about a couple of questions. So providers and protectors. You're claiming that this is an essential identity for men. Providers and protectors for whom?
Well, in the general sense of providers and protectors, it is for their immediate family or friends or whoever it might be. You know, young men who are still living at home can be providers and protectors for their parents, for their siblings. There are plenty of oldest siblings that can attest to feeling as though they were providers or protectors for younger siblings. And so this is something that can take many different shapes. But I think
women can't be provide and protect for siblings and loved ones and elderly parents?
Of course they can.
So
and men can nourish and caretake as well.
So how is it a unique identity marker for men?
Well, it's not a unique identity marker, but it's something to prioritize and to value as kind of like more of a North Star for a man.
Okay, that's not making a ton of sense because I was hearing you say
I can value truth, liberty, and freedom, and just because I put truth as number one doesn't mean that I don't value freedom or that I'm incapable.
No, I'm not saying that at all. You were claiming that provide and protect is a unique identity marker for men.
I've never made the claim that it's unique to men. Obviously, it's not unique to men.
You said men are facing an identity crisis.
Yes.
You didn't say women are facing an identity crisis.
Right.
So men need provide and protect as their identity.
Men need identity markers, and providing and protecting is an identity marker. It's something that you can value as an ideal and build your life around. I didn't make any claims about women. I'm talking about what has served men in the past and what could serve men right now.
But then you just said it's traditional gender roles. So that's a pretty strong implication that women can't be providers and protectors the way men can.
I'm not making that claim at all.
Well, then what does the traditional gender roles have to do with it?
Because it's a traditional gender role for a man to assume the role of a provider and a protector.
Okay, so that's a unique identity for a man.
It's not unique. You're adding the word unique to try and straw man the hell out of my argument. To say unique means that it's something that women don't possess and that they can't do, which
I'm not
obviously
saying
isn't
any
true.
women,
So
but,
I'm not adding the word unique. It's just something that men are good at and prioritize.
And by creating that binary, the implication is women aren't.
No, it's not. This is why
That's
I made
exactly what a binary does.
No, it's not. This is why I made the point that, like, if you're an American, you can value liberty and freedom, and that's not implying that other countries are incapable of liberty and freedom. It's just saying, hey, of all the core values as a nation, we are prioritizing these. Men aren't saying you're incapable of providing and protecting. It's saying, hey, these are things that we value in particular and that we feel that we are good at, and so we want to build our life around it. You're the one creating a binary.
So then women are just as good at them.
That's not what, well, no, they're not. But that's not what I'm making as part of that statement.
Well, what am I missing here then? Men are better at providing and protecting, but it's not a unique identity to men. Men are facing an identity crisis and they need this, but it's still not unique to men.
Okay.
Help me understand.
How? Okay. If you use the word unique, it's implying that women don't also have the capability or that value.
You just said men are better at it.
There's a difference between a binary that says you're incapable of something and one that says I'm better at it than you are.
Okay, so you're admitting that you feel that men are better at being providers and protectors.
Yes,
than
which is much different than a binary. Because
Okay.
a binary is yes or no, meaning I'm a provider and you're not a provider. That's not what I'm claiming.
Okay, so in a household with traditional gender roles, is everybody a provider?
They can be in different ways.
What are we talking about? You just said men are
are
better
you
at
like
it.
dead set on straw manning my argument that you
Men-
genuinely don't understand what I'm saying?
No.
There's a difference between
You keep contradicting yourself.
core values and binaries. You're forcing me onto a binary, which is wrong. And I'm just saying there's a prioritization of values, which is not a binary. It's not excluding women from it. It's just saying what we value and choose to prioritize.
Okay, but according to you, men are better at it.
Yeah.
So that's why they should do more of it then.
Well, it's
but
part
not
it's
all
part of the
it?
reason they value it is because it's
so-
something that they are just naturally built to be better at in general across billions of human beings.
All right. Well, that's a good segue then into the biology part.
Okay.
So you said men are better at being providers and protectors because of biology. That biology includes testosterone, strength. Those things make men better providers and protectors. How exactly?
Well, if we were to rewind the clock, it's obvious. If we were to go back to a traditional, like not traditional, but like a few hundred years in the past, you really don't even have to go far at all, where almost every job that a man might serve in a society is one that is incredibly physically taxing and that is dangerous.
Okay, we don't live in that society anymore.
Okay, but do you agree there?
To an extent, yes.
Okay.
And
And
which
when
I'll get into that when I do my side.
And when it comes to protecting, same deal. If we're going back in history, who's going to be more capable of grabbing a sword when an invading army is coming into a village, a man or a woman?
And why is the invading army coming into the village?
Well, that's irrelevant.
Testosterone.
We're talking about capabilities right now.
It's completely irrelevant.
It's
The reason the invading army is coming into the village is because of testosterone, and it's because of strength. You said women have more emotional intelligence. If we had more emotional intelligence exercised at the political leadership level, do you think we'd have more war or less war?
a lot less.
Right. So would those men be invading the village if the villages were led by women?
That's debatable, but
Probably
that's also irrelevant.
It's completely irrelevant.
No, it's not.
Because who are men protecting women from?
Men.
Other men.
Right. Am I in control of other men? Can I pull out my sword and suddenly I just get to like wave it around like a magic wand to control the other men because we're part of a hive mind?
How about creating an identity?
Men have been enemies of each other as far back as history goes.
Because of men.
That doesn't change the way I'm going to arrange my house just because I belong to the group that's also the perpetrator.
Put the women in charge and you won't have to protect anybody from anything.
That's a fair point, but that's irrelevant to what we're talking about.
It's not. That's how we actually enact change, is at the top. Is
true.
Philosophically, grassroots, fundamental.
True, but unfortunately, if I am in my hovel with my wife and an invading army is coming in, I can't go out and, change my profile picture and get the invading army to go away. I have to pull out a sword and protect my family. Or I'll say one of us has to.
Yeah.
Either I hand the sword to her and say, protect us, honey, or I do it. That's the situation.
Right.
So how do you build your family around that situation? Who's the protector?
Okay.
Answer the question.
In that moment,
yeah.
Whoever's better with the sword.
Okay. Fair. And
most of
in
the time,
general, statistically, who does that tend to be?
It's probably going to be the man.
Okay.
But wouldn't it be nice?
So then my point is not ludicrous.
It is ludicrous.
Because you just agreed with me.
Because you're protecting your wife from your brother or your cousin or your other men. Like, if men were more, you talk about identity. If the identity of men could become, let's have more emotional intelligence, let's embrace our femininity, let's be more like our wives and our sisters, you wouldn't have to protect anybody from anybody. We wouldn't be going to war. We wouldn't be dealing with all this.
This is such a crazy hypothetical identity politics argument that is not at all grounded in reality. That argument is closer to being grounded in reality today than it ever has been.
Exactly.
So we can talk about it.
Let's keep furthering
But the further back we go in history, it's ridiculous to even talk about that.
Not totally true.
To try and laugh me off the page saying that men are better at swinging swords than women. And your argument is that we need to put women in charge and then the Huns will not invade our village?
We wouldn't have fucking swords if women were in charge. We probably wouldn't have...
That's not true. Because at no point have we lived under like a global civilization that was self-governing.
Because at no point have we been led by women. We've always been led by testosterone-ridden
It's always been tribes.
Men.
It's always been tribes and colonies and cities and whatever.
Because back then, physical strength won.
Correct.
We're better than that today.
Totally.
Like, let's build something better than that. Providers and protectors is not building something better than that. It's enabling the past. It's living in the past.
Okay.
It's more conservative ideology clinging to the dying vestiges of this horrible, outdated system.
Okay, we can have that conversation. But when I rewound the clock, you have to agree with everything that I'm saying going back through history. Because you just
that men are better at swinging a sword in general? Yes, I can admit to that.
Okay,
sure.
But also as providers. Men have been better, in general, providers and protectors, for almost as far back in history as we can go. The conversation about modern society is different.
Providers, I completely disagree. Okay. Men have rigged the game to shoehorn women into subservient roles and create a game where the men are providers because that's the only value they know how to create for themselves. They rig the game.
Men?
That's why the whole thing is bullshit. Protection, men protecting women from other men, a bullshit philosophy. Providing, no, ever since we started agrarian society, capitalism, accumulation of assets, men have ruled that world, rigged the system to put women as part of the property. How can you expect women to provide when they're part of the property? They're getting sold and bought and traded. So no wonder they haven't had the opportunity to provide. If you look at recent history, they're getting more and more of those opportunities and they're providing better and better and better. And you yourself said they have more emotional intelligence, more oxytocin. Couldn't business, politics, everything benefit from less testosterone, more oxytocin?
Yes, but you're jumping from one point dramatically to a different point. So let's try and zero it in because there's a huge difference between a modern society and how men and women show up in their roles versus 100 years ago and back.
Right.
And I think we agree. I think I got you to the point of agreeing with me on both providing and protecting 100 years ago and back through history. But now we can have the conversation about the modern age.
Not providing. only because of a rigged system, and even on protection, again,
a rigged system that existed in every culture in the world. Just coincidentally,
it's not coincidentally that
how many matriarchs were there that survived against patriarchal systems?
Not many, because of aggression and because of testosterone.
Yes.
And look at the state of the world. It's fucking slavery, war, murder, terror, horror.
Okay.
Because of testosterone, because of those toxic traits.
Yes, an ever-present thing that has existed throughout all of the examples that we're going to move through. And here we are with
a chance to do better. And you want to continue to validate the very philosophy that drove that forward. Provide and protect is enabling an archaic system that leads to violence, oppression, and destruction.
Do you agree that throughout history there have been good people and bad people?
Of course.
Do you feel as though what I'm advocating in providers and protectors and serving others rather than selfish needs is placing me into the bad guys of history? Or does it feel like maybe I'm advocating for what the good people in history idealized?
Okay, that's a nice segue into another one of your points, which was talking about, hey, providing and protecting is about taking the focus off of myself and onto other people.
Yeah, the identity marker.
Right, okay. So we're talking about the conservative viewpoint, right? So we're talking about conservative men who, according to you, are just really want to help women, children, or family members.
That they should.
Right. That's what's going on here with provide and protect?
That they should, yeah.
Okay. So then why aren't those same men advocating for policies that actually protect those people? Why are those same men opposed to women controlling their own bodies and their own health care? Why are those same men voting for policies that lead to wealth inequity, that lead to social services being stripped from those very people they're supposed to be providing and protecting for? If these conservative men actually care about the people they're supposed to be protecting, why don't they actually fucking protect them?
It's a great question, and we could get into the fallout and the psychology behind all of this. But the point that I would make is to say, like, just because do unto others as you would have them do unto you is a core tenet of the same people who are carrying out atrocities across the entire world doesn't invalidate the idea.
Oh, sure, but like they're not living that idea in any way, shape, or form.
True, I totally agree, but like, why are you taking umbrage with the ideal?
I'm glad you asked that question.
Rather than the way that these people then apply it.
I'm glad you asked that question, and it's a central tenet of what I'll get into when I do my side of it. But I take umbrage with it because all it is a euphemism for more exploitation and more control. It's not genuine. If they were genuinely trying to protect and provide, they would fucking protect. They would do things that actually protect women and protect children. We wouldn't have a pedophile for a president. We wouldn't have Supreme Court justices that strip away women's rights of health care and control over their own body. Like we would actually be protecting. So to me, it's all about hypocrisy. Your actions speak louder than your words. The words are provide and protect. The actions are fuck all of those people. They are my property and my tools to stroke my ego, to enrich my life, and whatever else is happening.
This is just insane hyperbole. Because if we were to actually lay out the numbers of the amount of people in the world right now, and how many of those men, who, let's just say if we were looking at all the family units in the entire world, and we're going to compare in numbers, how many of those men are giant pieces of shit that are trying to imprison women against the men who are just genuinely trying to do right by their family, providing for them, and protecting them? What do you think the numbers would look like?
The men
how many billion to how many couple thousand?
Yeah, the men who are actually knowingly being manipulative is few, but they're the ones perpetuating the philosophy. It's just like the men who actually control all the wealth in this country are few, but the problem is fucking massive. Same principle. So you have a lot of very impressionable men, some of whom may be listening to this, who hear provide and protect. And it sounds great, right? When you hear Joe Rogan or Charlie Kirk say we need to provide and protect, that's our role as a man, it sounds kind of nice, right? They are Trojan horsing misogyny into a shiny concept that makes men feel okay about perpetuating a system that has been causing the problems all along. It needs to stop.
I mean, I don't disagree with that. Yeah, like you're obviously getting at the root of a giant problem, but you are tying what I'm advocating for to that, as though like men, the billions of men I'm mentioning, who do resonate with and who value being a provider and a protector, and who are doing it well, who are doing it valiantly, and who are not perpetuating all of the toxic stuff that you're talking about, who are just doing right by their family. You are trying to throw them under the bus as perpetrators of all the horrible things that have happened in the world to women, that they are all equally guilty because they are men who want to provide and protect for their family.
Okay, who's straw manning whom now? I am not
These
saying,
are the points you've made.
I'm not saying that well-meaning men are trying to fuck everybody over.
You're saying it's a euphemism for fucking people over,
yes,
even though billions of
created
people
by
build their
the
lives
patriarchy.
around it.
There's a better way. Provide and protect does not mean what you want it to mean.
Okay, but
And
if
you know
billions
that.
of people are doing it in the way that I'm talking about it, and your example is a few hundred fuckers who have exploited it, then how is it that like I'm wrong?
Because we're talking about the terminology. We're not talking about the actions.
Yeah, we're
The
talking
actions
about the
don't need-
ideals.
They don't need that label.
We're talking about ideals.
No, we're talking about the term provide and protect.
Which is
and
an
what
ideal.
and what it means.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's an ideal that men should build their lives around, build their identities around.
Okay, so you're telling me that the billions of people who are living those ideals are only doing so because of the terminology provide and protect?
Well, no, that they resonate with that and that they go about their lives, whether it's getting jobs or putting their kids in certain schools or doing whatever, to try and like do right by provide and protect.
Okay,
they
people who-
understand that it's their responsibility at the top of the list.
And people who inherently understand that don't need that label. They don't need that identity marker because they're living.
Okay, but this is what I hate about this. The progressive take on this is it's just saying you don't need the identity marker. Yes, we do. We all need fucking identity markers, and I'm tired of progressives trying to strip away every identity marker that men try to have. We all need them, and being a man is a very unique experience that comes with like unique feelings and values. And if almost universally, across history, across cultures, men resonate with being providers and protectors, then you can't say, who needs the identity marker? Clearly, fucking men do.
the dominant people who have been exploiting
The billions
and
of
taking
people who
advantage
lived
of-
their life and resonated with how they wanted to lead it.
the billions of people who have kept women in subjugation, not being able to vote, not being able to have bank accounts, credit cards, those billions of people? What billions of people are you talking about?
So what you just said was me strawmanning you. You literally just said the exact same thing, was that all of those billions of well-meaning men are responsible for subjugating women.
My point is that's what's happened.
And it didn't happen
Because
by
of-
the billions of men.
Right.
It happened by very few in power. I'm advocating
those-
for fathers. I'm advocating for families.
That's
I'm
a
not
good identity marker.
I'm not talking about dictators. I'm not talking about bullshit politics and corruption and bribery. I'm talking about men and husbands and fathers trying to do right in their own little tiny life with their little career, trying to help their kids not die.
Right.
That's who I'm talking about and who I'm advocating for.
Father is a great identity marker. Good man is a great identity marker.
What does that mean?
Anything they want it to mean.
That's
Taking
not
care of
helpful.
people, empowering
That's
people.
not helpful.
If you need to be labeled a provider and a protector to be a good man, you're weak as fuck. I'm
Okay.
sorry. Like, you know, why do you need that?
Oh, you want to be an author? What kind of books do you want to write? Good books. See how helpful that is? No. What kind of books do you want to write? Good ones. What kind of man do you want to be? A good man. No. Okay, give me some details. What does a good man look like to you? Oh, it's someone who provides and protects for their family. Look at that.
A good man is somebody who empowers everyone around him. A good man teaches his people to fish. He doesn't give them a fish. That's what a good man does. Provide and protect is you sit over here and do what I tell you in exchange for the currency I'm giving you, which is some shitty ass job that I work and the shitty ass house that I provide, and protection against other men, so that you can sit in the corner and do what I say. That's what provide and protect is. That's not what good men do.
That's a crazy straw man. Like let's do a little simulation.
How is it a straw man? Every conservative voice believes that.
Let's do a quick little simulation. Blank slate. We're in the middle of the woods. It's just a man and a woman who are partners.
Okay.
And there's no society around them. There's nothing. They need to survive for themselves. Okay. And they have no, cultural precedent that's made them feel like they need to be one thing or the other.
Right.
Okay. Just naturally, what's going to happen is when they want to have a family, the woman gets pregnant. Who is in a better shape at that point to go and collect firewood, to go try and hunt, to bring back food? A pregnant woman or the man?
Well, okay.
Obviously the man. So I'll just speed through my little hypothetical. Okay. Obviously the man. Then she gives birth. Right after birth, she's still not in a state to go hunting or to go out providing, doing the things, catching the fish, whatever. She now has this little baby who needs to eat, and the only way that it can eat is by breastfeeding, which he can't do, she has to. Cool. So obviously, the man is still in a better position to provide, and also if there were threats, if there were animals, bears, whatever, he needs to be the one to protect them, while the mother is there still breastfeeding a little tiny child. And that's going to continue, not for days, it's going to continue for months and years. We didn't bring any historical precedent into that little simulation. And what do you know? The man and the woman ended up in what roles?
So let's talk about that simulation.
Okay. Did he subjugate her? Did he rig the whole system? Did he go out in the woods and write a constitution to making a mockery of his wife?
So in that simulation, they did a home birth, right? So that means home birth is better. We should never use hospitals. So
there's no hospitals in this hypothetical.
Right. I'm equating our current world to your simulation, because you're trying to extrapolate the values that you generated in that simulation onto the current world.
Well, no. All I'm saying is you're trying to make the claim that there is some giant historical precedent of a conspiracy.
There is. It's a fact.
Of a conspiracy of men trying to that providing and protecting is a racket to subjugate women. But when I give you a simulation of just how nature unfolds,
no, I'm saying
it lines up with what I'm saying.
I'm saying that our entire history has been a racket of controlling and subjugating women, treating them as literal property. That's historical fact. That is, you can't dispute that.
Okay.
And then what we call providing and protecting today is just an excuse to continue that racket. Because today, we need nice euphemisms to make horrible concepts easier to swallow. We didn't have to do that 200 years ago. Back in your simulation, that man was stronger. He could beat the fuck out of that woman. He had complete and total control. He didn't need a constitution. He could do whatever the fuck he wanted, right? Today, we can't do that. Today, men can't do all that. So we need these euphemisms. Provide and protect is one of them. Okay. It is a sugary, bitter pill of poison.
Well, okay. All I'm saying is, we could have a whole separate argument about at what point society started valuing women less than men, which immediately we can talk about religion, which has nothing to do with providing and protecting. While the simulation that I'm talking about, if we were to repeat that simulation over and over, so basically the first man and woman, they assumed the roles that I'm talking about. And if we were to repeat the simulation and then humanity grows and repopulates, they are assuming the gender roles I'm talking about without any need for all the horrible things, because that is what biologically fits. It's what we adapted to do. And all those things you're talking about, horrible. I totally agree. But that is a huge causation rather than correlation.
They also had 4 out of their 5 babies died of disease. Does that mean we shouldn't immunize our kids and use hospitals today? What?
What I'm saying is provider and protector is a pattern that will always emerge. Whether every single human on earth dies and humanity starts again, the same thing will happen, the same pattern. This didn't come from some devious plan to subjugate women. It came from being a human fucking being.
So did tribalism and violence.
True,
Can't
but that's
we overcome
unrelated.
those today?
That's unrelated.
Overcoming our biology is a part of being a human fucking being.
It's true, but that is unrelated to what I'm saying.
How?
Because in my simulation, what emerged with just a man and a woman was provider and protector. His role became being a provider and a protector. That's just what emerged, and that pattern will continue for always as long as humans are alive.
So did hers. She was as much a provider and a protector in that relationship as he was. We're just...
Not in the same sense. Sure, yeah, she's a provider of different things. We could say she provided food for the baby. She provided love. She provided warmth. She provided all those things. Totally.
Right.
We can have that conversation. But when men say provider and protector, they obviously aren't meaning it in the context of breastfeeding a baby.
When men today say provider and protector, they mean women don't go to college. Charlie Kirk. Charlie fucking Kirk.
They mean a man gets a job.
Women who go to college are unmarriable. They shouldn't do it. That's a very mainstream conservative voice who said that.
Okay.
We don't even need to get into Andrew Tate and what he says about women. Joe Rogan, a little less extreme, but women comedians get paid less because they're not as funny as men. That's a Joe Rogan quote.
Okay.
He's got Jordan Peterson on his program talking about...
You can bring up a million cases of misogyny.
It's the whole point. You're trying to steelman a conservative side of this argument. What do conservatives say about provide and protect? They say it means women stay in the home. Women don't get jobs. Women don't go to college. That's what the conservative voices are saying. So it's pretty clear. Also, these same conservative men aren't doing fuck all. Sorry, I spit on you. Aren't doing fuck all to support and protect women. So it's a disingenuous fucking bullshit line.
It's not.
It is.
It's not disingenuous.
These men who are using it and advocating for it are the grossest hypocrites ever. If they were actually acting in women's best interest or in any disadvantaged people's best interest, and they wanted to slap a provide and protect label on it consistently, I don't think any progressive would have a problem with that. What progressives have a problem with is conservatives saying, we're providers and protectors, trying to mask these outdated concepts that maybe worked hundreds of years ago. I think that's debatable, but they don't work today, and they don't need to be even attempted today.
Attempted?
Yes.
Where the man goes to make an income and the woman takes care of a newly born baby? That we shouldn't attempt that?
I think partners should decide what's best for them.
And, I agree.
Yeah.
And what is that going to turn out to be 95% of the time across the world, across cultures?
It could be a lot of different ways.
I know what it's going to look like because biology is on the side of what I'm talking about.
You said women are more emotionally intelligent, and I agree with you.
Predisposed to be emotionally intelligent, yeah.
In general, yeah. What job wouldn't benefit from that?
Totally. Well, I can't let my personal thoughts in here. I obviously agree with that. Yeah. But true. And?
There's a reason why women are crushing it in the workforce and have been on a massive uptick. Mm-hmm. It's because they're very good at a lot of jobs that men always just assume they were better at.
But what job is it most important to have emotional intelligence in?
I assume what you mean is parent, right?
Of a little baby.
Right. How many parents do little babies have?
2.
And only one of them needs to be emotionally intelligent?
Well, they both do. But the one who's taking care of it the most definitely ought to have more.
Okay. So how about instead of just saying, well, I'm a man, so I don't have any emotional intelligence, I'll go work my job at the dump. How about we go, hey, let's both have more emotional intelligence.
Sure.
Let's up our game.
Sure.
Then let's see who's the more marketable, or maybe we both get jobs because this is 2026. Let's face it, we have to work 2 jobs in this country because we're all fucked.
True.
And we just are partners instead of I'm the man, I'm the provider, and the protector.
As much as you want to use the use the straw man voice, it still doesn't change that the basis of my argument has always repeated and will always repeat.
Yeah. Okay. I think we've hit on your points pretty well.
I think that's pretty good.
Passionately. Would you like to make any kind of a closing statement?
No. I mean, I think I covered it in the opening and with our questions, so I think that was good.
Yeah,
Nice.
that was very passionate. I thought that was good. Okay. All right, regarding provide and protect, I'm Charlie, and I'll be Steelmanning the progressive side. Provide and protect is just a conservative euphemism for stay in the kitchen, woman. You know how the mafia works, right? A guy in a suit shows up at your business and says, hey, nice place you got here. It would be a shame if something happened to it, but don't worry. For a small fee, we'll make sure you're protected. And you think, protected from what? And the answer is protected from them. They create the danger, then sell you the solution. That's a protection racket. Now let me tell you about the greatest protection racket in human history, the patriarchy. Men spent millennia making the world dangerous for women through violence, through laws that stripped women of property rights and legal personhood, through economic systems that barred women from employment. And then men turned around and said, don't worry, ladies, the world is dangerous, but men will protect you. Protected from what? From men, from the systems men built, from the violence men commit, from the economic exclusion men enforce. 90% of violent crime committed by men. 90% of sexual assault. Yep, that's men. Who are women being protected from in this scenario? Other men. So women are supposed to be grateful that some men will shield them from other men, a problem men created in the first place. And what's the price of this protection? Oh yeah, everything. Women's autonomy, women's economic independence, women's ability to make their own choices, women's bodies. See, provide and protect isn't partnership, it's a transaction. The man provides resources and protection, and the woman provides what exactly? Domestic labor, emotional labor, childcare, sexual access, obedience, gratitude, her entire life, actually. Let's talk numbers, because the transaction is even worse than it looks on the surface. So the median male breadwinner today in the USA makes about $65,000 a year. Economists have actually calculated the economic value of a homemaker's labor: childcare, cooking, cleaning, household management, emotional support, scheduling. You know what that's worth? $185,000 a year, nearly 3 times what he's providing. That's not providing for her. That's her subsidizing him. But here's the thing. This system destroys men too. Want to know why men die earlier than women? It's not just biology. It's that men are grinding themselves to death trying to be providers. Heart disease, stress-related illness, workplace accidents. Men work the most dangerous jobs, the longest hours, jobs they hate, because they've been told their worth is measured by their paycheck. And if they can't provide, depression, shame, suicide. The male suicide rate is 4 times higher than women's. And you know what's one of the highest indicators or predictors? Job loss, financial stress. Society has told men their entire value is economic utility, and then acts surprised when they're killing themselves because they lose their jobs. But let's get back to the con job at the heart of this provide and protect thing. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Step 1, make it illegal for women to own property, open bank accounts, get credit cards, or work most jobs. Step 2, point out that women are economically vulnerable. Step 3, offer to provide for these vulnerable women. Step 4, claim this arrangement is natural because women are just naturally dependent. It's like breaking someone's legs and then selling them crutches and calling yourself a hero. And people are supposed to believe this is biology? Please. There's nothing natural about a system that requires laws to enforce it. If women were naturally suited to be financially dependent homemakers, society wouldn't have needed centuries of legal prohibitions to keep them there. The fact that the moment women got legal rights, millions fled to the workplace tells you everything you need to know about how natural and fulfilling this arrangement really was. But let's talk about what provide and protect really does to women. It turns women into commodities. Women's affection becomes currency. Women's bodies become assets. Women's sexuality becomes something they trade for security. Sure, I'll cook your meals and raise your children and have sex with you that I don't always want to have. In exchange, you won't let me starve. That's not love. That's survival sex work with a marriage license. And here's another way men get screwed. When love becomes a transaction, men never know if they're actually loved. Does she want you or for your job? Is she attracted to you or to what you provide? That's the poison at the heart of transactional relationships. Men becoming walking ATMs, always wondering if they're valued for who they are or what they earn. That's not intimacy. That's insecurity with a joint bank account. And don't tell anyone women choose this. When women's options are depend on a man or be homeless with children, that's not a choice. That's coercion with extra steps. A choice made under duress isn't a choice. It's what happens when society has eliminated all other options. Want to know why conservative men are so threatened by women's economic independence? Because the whole game falls apart when women have options. When she can support herself, suddenly his providing isn't leverage anymore. When she can call the police or just leave, suddenly his protection isn't necessary. When she can say no without risking her survival, suddenly the transaction is exposed for what it always was. And that's what this is all really about. Provide and protect isn't about taking care of women. If it were, conservative men would support paid family leave, subsidized childcare, women's reproductive rights, and pay equity. They'd champion policies that actually help women and men thrive. So no, provide and protect isn't some noble masculine calling. It's a protection racket. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's commodification dressed up as chivalry, and it's a cage for everyone involved. It tells women they're weak and need protecting. It tells men they're only valuable if they're providing. It denies women's autonomy and denies men humanity. And the moment people got the chance to escape it, millions did. Women entered the workforce. Men started asking for paternity leave. Young people started questioning why they're grinding themselves to death for a system that doesn't care about them. Because here's the truth. Both men and women have figured out. Real partnership means both people provide, both people protect, both people nurture, both people work, both people have autonomy. If your identity is so fragile that you need to call yourself a provider and a protector, man, you're just a tool.
All right, I've got a few questions for you.
Yes, sir. Let's hear it.
Let's just start with the protection racket.
Okay.
Because I understand what you're saying, but I just think that throughout history, the average man had nothing to do with the system that was set up. So your example of the same guy who's coming to your door saying, I could use a fee, being the guy who will come and break your knees later, it's different than the reality that nearly all men have found themselves in through history.
Well, who are men protecting women from?
Other men.
Period.
But if there's a man who's just genuinely trying to provide and protect for his family, and somebody's coming knocking on the door, is it him? No, it's a different man.
Right, but if men focused on having an identity of not raping and not murdering, then would women need to be protected from them?
Okay, well, I'm going to use a word you love. You're definitely creating a monolith out of all men. You're saying men just need to focus on not raping, as if all 4 billion of them are just going to send out a memo.
Are we going to do not all men right now? Is that what we're doing?
That's funny.
I mean, of course, not all men rape and murder, but 90% of that is done by men. So if all men...
And far less than 90% of men do those things.
Right. But if all men were focused on having an identity of not doing those things would be virtually eliminated from our society.
So a man who has a pregnant wife and 2 young kids, his top priority should be don't rape. That's more important to think about every day than feeding my family.
If every man thought don't rape, men wouldn't have to protect women from rape.
Okay. And what about from all the other things?
Well, like bears? Like, what are we talking about?
War, famine, starvation.
Who does war? Men.
Okay,
men do
so
war.
you're adding don't rape.
Don't war, don't murder.
Don't conscript into a war that's being started by
men.
A very small percentage of men.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, men are creating the problem and selling the solution. Now, I agree that it's not always the same men, and I agree there are billions of well-meaning men and have been throughout history. But provide and protect has nothing to do with that. Like, be a good man. And if all men worried about being good men, then we wouldn't have rape and war and murder. I get that that's a fantasy world and we live in a real world, But the point is, conservatives are the ones pushing this idea of provide and protect, and conservatives are the ones creating wealth inequity, war, a lot of the issues that are leading to a lot of the problems that women actually face.
Mm-hmm.
And so if conservative men were serious about protecting and providing, they would do that. They're not doing that. They just want to keep treating women as property. Does that apply to every man out there? Of course not. But that's what the terminology perpetuates.
Okay. If all men focused on provide and protect, don't you think that there would be fewer broken homes where the man just up and leaves and abandons his family? If the men who abandon their families had instead really had it instilled into them that it's important to provide and protect, do you think they would have walked out the door?
I don't know. It's hard to answer that. I know that the data shows that the number one reason for divorce and for broken homes are financial reasons. So if providing was a team effort instead of getting pinned on one party or the other, then we'd have less divorces.
Okay. All right. And don't you think that provide and protect helps a man who might otherwise be purely self-motivated, self-interested, selfish needs, actually value his partner and his kids rather than just abandoning them? Doesn't it help a man become invested in the family unit when he might otherwise pump and dump?
No, I don't think any men are out there going, how do I be a man? Oh, provide and protect. This conservative ideology, that's going to help me be a good man. Like, they're either good men or they're not. They're not. That's not motivating them. That's not giving them identity. That's giving them an excuse. That's all it does. If the ideology actually matched the actions, maybe I could buy that argument of like, okay, men are actually being benefited from this. Men are being taught by conservative voices to protect and provide for women, and that terminology, that vision aligns with their actions, which are to support, political and economic policies that actually take care of women.
Okay.
Then I could buy it, but it's a big contradiction.
I get what you're saying, but we can't straw man a provider and protector with correlating the conservative stuff, because providing and protecting has been a value that men have prioritized since the dawn of time, long before conservatives and American politics was a thing. This is something that has been a dynamic in a way that men have identified with life, has been around providing and protecting. So I don't think it's fair to try and pin the woes of conservative politics onto this simple idea about how men can identify with life.
Sure, but like the further back you go, the worse it gets, not better. So it's not like men were more noble 200 years ago. 200 years ago, women were literally property and couldn't vote. So and then 200 years before that, rape was just an everyday occurrence. And the further back you go, the worse it is for women. So I don't know if I see the validity of that.
Okay, fair point. But I would add to a question that I was kind of just asking there that, if there was a spider on this table that you might have otherwise just smashed, but I said, hey, I'm going to give you a job, please protect this spider. Mm-hmm. Suddenly, you're going to value that spider a whole lot more than you would have otherwise. You might have otherwise just completely, discarded that spider. But because I've given you that task to say, hey, protect this spider, suddenly now you're invested in protecting it. And if someone came down here and accidentally stepped on it, you'd be like, no, I was trying to protect that. This is at a very base level. Giving men this thing helps them stop thinking about themselves and start to value and care about things other than themselves. And it's those who they protect and those who they are trying to provide for beyond just providing for themselves.
Sure, but where the identity crisis happens and where I would have a mental fucking breakdown is if you were like, hey, protect this spider. And the way I want you to do that is put it in this cage and give it no rights. I would become HAL 9000, in 2001: A Space Odyssey, where he's given contradictory instructions and fucking ends up murdering everybody. That's an identity crisis. If you said protect and provide for this spider. And the way we want you to do that is to gently remove it and put it back into its natural habitat and empower and enable it to live its own life in nature. That would make some sense to me. You know what I mean?
Right. Okay. So that makes perfect sense. You're wanting to get into the nuance of exactly what provide and protect means.
Well, if we go there, we're going to get into our own opinions and analysis, which I think we're mostly on the same page about.
I think a core difference, though, because I understand your points, but I think there is a core difference that if we were to go back 200 years and I had a wife who I was providing and protecting for, even if she might not officially have rights as the state sees her, does that necessarily change that I love her more than anybody and that she's who I want to spend my life with? Like, even though the state might view her as property technically, do I as a man just instantly see her as property and not value her in the slightest? The same with my kids?
This sounds a lot like the argument slave owners use to justify slavery. Of like, hey, I take great care of these people. They're happy. There's nowhere they'd rather be. You know, like, I'm sure a lot of slave owners genuinely cared about their slaves and loved them. Loved them so much that they raped them and had kids with them, you know. And I kind of think that's along similar lines. Like, if men back then actually cared about their women, they would have been advocating for social change and social justice. Now, I know that's crazy because those ideas are like way ahead of their time. But no, I mean, I know what you're saying, that there are and always have been a lot of good men who are doing their best within the framework that existed that they probably had very little part personally in creating, or no part. I hear that. But what we're talking about is language that has basically become weaponized. Provide and protect. Justification for conservative men to continue to support conservative ideals that actually don't protect women.
Okay. So another question. You mentioned that provide and protect is a euphemism for get back in the kitchen woman.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, if there was a man and a woman who they have a kid and they decide what is best for their family unit is that she's going to take care of the kids and he's going to make an income and bring it home, kind of the traditional role.
Yeah.
In what way can he do that is not inherently misogynist, since it's a euphemism for get back in the kitchen?
I think they just decide together. I don't think we need this provide and protect framework that says the traditional role of the woman is to be in the home, and that's what's best in most cases. I think what's best is for the man to take on a role of, say, hey, we've decided together that we want kids. Are you sure you actually want kids? Are you sure this is what you want to do with your body and your life? And if she says, yes, this is absolutely what I want to do. Okay, great. Let's talk about how we're going to do this. How do you see the division of labor breaking out? Blah, 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 blah. Then they do that.
Yeah, and here, let's stay in your hypothetical. The divisional of labor, let's just be super reductive with it. There's probably 4 roles that need to get split between the 2 of them. Somebody needs to bring an income. Somebody needs to caretake. Someone needs to home make. And somebody needs to protect. Go on.
Why does somebody need to protect?
Well, if it's modern day where most of us are relatively safe just as is, there's not as much of a need for protection. But we'll just couch those 2 together, since it's essentially trying to prevent your family from starving to death and dying.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, then you just look at who's going to make the most money with the least amount of work, probably. Yeah. That could just as easily be the woman.
Okay, it could easily be the women, but across the simulations that have transpired in real life, the vast majority of humanity has elected to divide it a certain way that I'm advocating for. And what I'm saying...
Because women didn't have employment opportunities until like the last 20 years.
No, but also biologically, there are roles that make more sense between men and women. It is not perfectly split where it's just a coin toss on who's going to be better at what. We literally are evolutionary adapted to certain roles. That's not misogynist to say that.
our evolution has happened over 3 million years, and our society has only existed for 10,000, and our modern society has only existed for arguably less than 100. So I don't think you can say that our biology has had time to catch up to what our current reality is.
No, but our reality is not so bold as to say, no, we know what our bodies were built for better than the 3 million years of evolution.
Well, I mean, here's an example. When I had my first kid, we set up a scenario where my wife at the time wanted to breastfeed the child. So sometimes she would just do that. Other times she would pump milk, leave it in the fridge, and we set up a system where she could feed the baby at 7 o'clock every night, go to bed. The next feeding was at 10 p.m. I could do that from milk that was in the fridge. I could stay up if the baby needed anything until the next feeding so she could get like 6 hours of rest. So we adapted. She didn't have to breastfeed all the time. Nobody has to breastfeed. We have formula and other things today. I think breastfeeding is a good thing, different topic. But the point is, we made decisions as a team that worked for us. And part of that decision was me holding a baby and feeding it a bottle at night. She didn't have to. She wasn't the only one that had to do that.
Okay.
And I fucking loved that. I bonded with my baby. I felt like it made me closer to him and made me a better man.
Okay.
And I think that that's what true partnership is it's partnership. It's a collaboration. It's not, what do you mean you want me to feed this baby? Don't you know I have a full-time job and I pay our mortgage? Fuck you. That baby's your domain. That's what the conservatives, that's what they're doing in practice.
No, they're not.
They are.
That's just like the most heartless, like misogynistic example that you could possibly give. That men just hate their wives.
I didn't say
and
that
they
they
just
hate
want
their
them to just be
wives.
miserable.
I didn't say that.
Let me just like pump you full of cum and then walk out the door.
I didn't say that, but go look at the conservative voices in the manosphere and what they're saying about gender roles. And the predominant view is that women should stay in the home and be grateful to do that $185,000 a year of work in exchange for the $65,000 that the man's providing. That's the predominant voice.
That's the predominant voice of inflammatory conservative talking heads. That's not the predominant position of the average conservative. The average conservative doesn't fucking hate his wife.
I'm not saying anybody hates their wife.
I know, well, but to make those points that women are just so obviously lesser than, just get back in the kitchen. Those are the opinions of people who fucking hate women. And I'm not trying to advocate for them. I'm not going to steelman Andrew Tate. I'm going to steelman the average conservative man.
Sure, but men have been taught to hate women since time immemorial. If you're girly, you're not a man. If you like girly shit, you're not a man.
Well, this
if you're
is
gay, you're not a man.
Well, that's about how men perceive themselves, but then that's a whole separate conversation.
But it's linked.
But I also do want to call out a distinction in this conversation.
Yeah.
That when we say provide and protect, quite often people think, oh, protecting is just protecting them from bears. But really, the way that we need to think about this is it's protecting your family from the elements more than anything. So if you're out in the woods, provide and protect is going to look like, hey, I'm going to go hunt for us, and I'm going to build us a shelter. Protect you from the elements by building you a shelter, because those things need to get done, even if you're not in civilization, you're just out in the woods. And there's a role that has to happen. You know, like when I went and got my wilderness survival merit badge in scout camp, the very basic things were build a shelter, make sure you have resources, start a fire, and then like go to bed or whatever. And so these are the kind of the basic things. So the protection thing, I'm coming back to that because I realized I'm not advocating for it that well. But protection is huge. Paying the mortgage is protection. Providing is providing food. It's keeping them from starving. Protecting from the elements, protecting them from living on the streets is part of the protect. And the majority of men across multiple cultures, countries, history, the most prevalent pattern that we've ever seen is that men get chosen to provide and protect and women get chosen to rear the kids because they are physically equipped to feed the kids, to take care of the kids, to deliver the kids, to grow the kids, to do all these incredible things that men literally cannot do. I care less about trying to make some claim that women are incapable of something. I'm going to make a claim that men are incapable of doing what women do.
Well, that's not particularly controversial, and I agree.
I'm putting a progressive flourish onto this.
Yeah, I agree with you. Biological males are not capable of.
But this goes into how the roles get assigned. It's not always just like, oh, I'm the big tough one, so I'll provide and protect. It's like, no, you're the one who delivers the children, so I guess I'll be the one who goes and provides and protects. Even though you could do it too, but like you're 8 months pregnant, I'll go catch the fish.
Yeah.
I'll build the log cabin. And also it's worth mentioning that like men in a world where you have to build a log cabin, men are built to do that way more than women are. If you asked a woman to build a log cabin, like, I'm sorry if it comes across as misogynist, but like that's an incredibly difficult task that men's bodies are just far more built to handle.
Okay.
So there's the protect thing.
A log cabin requires strength and intelligence, know-how, all of that. So
And the mud
it's best,
and the cutting and
it's best built as a team.
of course, two people's better than one.
Yeah.
But I'm saying if we are separating the responsibilities,
I think the main source of our disagreement and the debate is not necessarily that at times men and women take on different roles that they're better suited for in that given situation or in that moment. Because, of course, men can't grow babies in their belly. Men are generally physically stronger than women. So, like, yes, those are biological facts, but those are pretty minor details of all the things that goes into living and providing and protecting. So the debate is really, why do we have the term provide and protect? Why is it a buzzword today? Why is it a hot button phrase? And it's not because of really any of these reasons. It's because of what I'm arguing, that conservatives use it to disguise misogyny. That's it.
There's that argument, but I could also make the argument that it's become a controversial buzzword because progressive people, feminists, have taken that and in a bad faith interpretation said, oh, if you're saying men are good at this, then you are inherently saying that women are incapable of it, which is like so hyperbolic and not the case. Men trying to orient their lives around something, and of course you can't say anything as a man like, hey, I think I'm good at this, because then it's immediately like a slight to everyone else. And so we need to strip that identity marker away from you, lest people be discriminated by, you trying to orient your life around some sort of a purpose. I think that's contributes to why provide and protect is controversial.
Okay. I'm going to go into some dangerous territory here. And with the
more than I'm already in?
With the full disclaimer that in case you didn't know, I am a white man.
Dun, dun, dun.
Were you aware? So I would love to be able to say that I'm a feminist. I believe that I advocate for women. I love women. I believe in feminine ideals, but I don't think men can claim to be feminists.
Whoa, hot take.
Yeah, I just...
Hot take, what? Okay, this is like a whole other can of worms. Save this for the analysis because I want to get into
Well,
this.
I think we're kind of getting into the analysis.
Okay, well, I have two more questions I want to do as part of your ring.
All right, well, this is relevant to what you just asked. So the reason I gave the disclaimer is because I'm now going to try to speak for feminists. And I may be speaking out of turn, and if so, I apologize. But I believe that why feminists are pissed off about provide and protect is because of what I've already said. Protect from whom? Other men. So feminists are like, we don't need, if y'all just stopped raping and killing, we wouldn't need any protection. So fuck you with your protection that you're trying to sell us on. And then the provide part, they're like, if we just had equal opportunity of men, we can fucking provide for ourselves. We don't need you to provide and protect for us. I don't care how well-meaning you are by that. We don't need you for those things. And y'all need to get used to that. I roughly think that's sort of the feminist viewpoint on that. And to take umbrage with that is almost like getting mad at black people for saying Black Lives Matter. All they want to say is their lives matter. Why do white people need to get upset and be like, whoa, but all lives matter? That's the same as conservatives being like, well, no, we just want to provide and protect for you when feminists get mad about it. We need to let women be mad about that phrase. It's righteous anger. They're not wrong. They only need to be kept safe from other men. If they can't provide for themselves, it's because the system's been rigged against them.
Okay, well, I don't disagree that like women have a lot of justifiable anger that they should point at things and point at injustice. But to point it at how men identify in their life, to point it at some like innocent philosophy that men identify with seems silly.
But the philosophy itself requires the subjugation of women.
It doesn't require it.
It requires their inferiority.
It doesn't require that.
It strongly implies it. If I'm providing and protecting, it's because you can't do it yourself.
No, it's not. This is what I'm talking about. When the man and the woman who are having a kid, they divide out those responsibilities. At no point is the woman saying, "Oh, because I'm going to take care of the kid, you're incapable of it."
Okay. The point is, though, you're upset about progressives canceling the term "provide and protect" because you feel it
benefits men.
Yeah, benefits men. It gives men identity.
Mm-hmm.
And my point is, like, men don't get to tell women what they're mad about. Women have righteous anger about provide and protect because women only need to be protected from other men. And women, if they can't provide for themselves, it's because the game has been rigged against them. That is righteous anger. They get to decide if that's an appropriate term or not. Any disadvantaged party gets to decide if that term is okay.
You don't get to decide how other people identify with their life. Women don't get to say how men are identifying with their life is wrong.
When men are wrapping their identity around women, yes, you do get to decide that.
You do not.
Sure you do.
How? How do you get to decide how I identify with my life simply because
who are you providing and protecting?
It might involve a woman who's not all women?
Because it's offensive.
To some. To any kind of a bad faith interpretation, but it can be offensive. Anything can be offensive to any. Turn the other cheek could be offensive to the right indignant person.
Sure, and that's why we have like the capacity to reason.
Yes,
and I feel like it's reasonable to say to women, "Yeah, okay, we don't need to use that term. There's a million other ways we can find identity. If we're so lacking in creativity and fragile that we have to have that term provide and protect, like that's crazy. You know, it's just a lot more reasonable to me to believe that conservatives have used that term to make misogyny sound better. Because that's what's happening. Because all the conservative voices confirm that. All the conservative policies confirm that. If they were being genuine about a desire to provide for and protect women and other disadvantaged people, their actions would speak louder than their words. They wouldn't even fucking care about the words.
Okay. Well, like, I'll advocate for a lot of men, not just conservative, but like a lot of liberal men who resonate with the idea of it being a provider and protector, in saying that outside of this Steelman, I personally resonate with that idea.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm a pretty good champion of a lot of like feminist ideals and all these things. And I don't feel like provide and protect is something I'm needing to deconstruct lest I be a misogynist. I resonate with it on a deep level. Do you not? I know you do.
I don't think you do as much as
I
you
do.
think.
And I have zero plans to have kids. And I still resonate with it. I'm talking on like a deep biological level. I always just feel this need that I need to like be building things for people. I need to be solving problems for people. I need to be like going and doing good for people.
Okay, that's beautiful and that's great. But provide and protect as a conservative framework is not that.
Well,
and your girlfriend,
here, go ahead.
You are choosing to be with a very powerful, strong, and independent woman.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the actions of a provide and protect kind of guy.
Okay, well, we'll get more specific. Awesome, powerful woman who also definitely like can't lift a box. When we moved into this house, you can point to every single thing on all 3 floors. I moved it there. I built it.
Yeah.
She needed that. So that's a version of providing.
Well, okay, she could have hired it done.
But I was happy to do it.
Right. And that's beautiful. And that makes you a great partner and a great man.
A lot of providers and protectors are happy to do it, and it's not inherently transactional. It's how a man wants to show up in a marriage, in a family with kids. Like, I want to serve, not because I'm wanting something in return, but because like there's some deep part of who I am and how I identify with being alive that wants to provide.
You're a good man.
Right. But those things I'm describing can be boiled down to providing and protecting.
Why do you have to die on that hill? You of all
sure,
people don't
I don't
need
have
that
to die on
identity.
the semantic hill.
Yeah.
I don't need to. But like when billions of men who are currently alive, as well as billions of men who have lived, have resonated with those exact words, then my thought is like, why are we villainizing a thing that like billions of men have felt to their core rather than reclaiming it?
Because those words have become toxic.
Then let's reclaim them, because I also reject that, because the points that you gave have dealt with 1% of men rather than like 99% of men.
They make women feel objectified and unsafe. A lot of women, not all, of course.
I guess. But I guess it just comes down to semantics.
I sort of think it does.
But like also, I go back to my simulation in the woods. If we're playing Minecraft, if we're doing whatever, like the mechanics of being alive will boil down to your survival depends on these things. And we've identified like these 2 things that men are built to be good at. And I want men to identify with the things they're good at. I want people who have talents to love the things they're talented at.
Yeah.
It's like some crime to want men to do what they are good at. Men fucking suck in a lot of ways. We have created all the chaos, but also we are pretty damn good at some things. So why not point men in a good direction? Because part of my point that I didn't really get to in my opening statement is that part of the beauty of provide and protect is it takes the wild, aggressive energy that men do have and it tries to channel it in a more benevolent and productive direction. Rather than just saying, do whatever you want, just be you, and then we just have crazy men and debauchery in society. It feels a little bit better to say, hey, no, actually, you know what's cool and what we value in society is when you provide and protect for other people. That just like feels like a good baseline to take the wild men of the world and try and like make them more decent.
But it creates a hierarchy.
I get that. And inside the Steelman and out of the Steelman, I agree. And there's a whole lot of problematic shit that we could discuss till the cows come home. Yeah. But I'm just saying at the very, very fundamental level of what provide and protect is, I just don't think that we should toss the words out. Okay. And then I was going to make an analogy, separate point, where you were saying like a man is going to protect a woman, but who does she need protection from? Other men. A good analogy would be the Second Amendment argument, which would be like, should we take guns away from everybody? Because for you to have the right to bear arms in your home to protect your family or whatever, just to have a handgun for personal safety, it's like, well, who do you need protection from? Other guns. So you don't get to have a personal gun. Instead, you need to get rid of the 300 million guns that are in America. It's like, how does that help anything? That's
Plenty of countries have done that. That would be super helpful.
We're in so deep. I don't think we can ever come back from it. But you see how like it does perpetuate more violence, where it's like, well, now I need more protection from more guns, and now I need even more protection from more guns.
Yeah,
which is kind of what men have done, which you're arguing.
Yeah,
you do see how it creates a little bit of a stymie when it comes to an individual where the ball's already been rolling on this issue. And it's like, well, I want a gun to protect my house.
Yeah.
But I would prefer if there were no guns.
Well, and this is I think part of what we got into on our phone call a little bit today, of this idea of the utopian idea and the practical idea. And I agree, a lot of the progressive ideas about this topic are utopian. They're, in a perfect world, men wouldn't be a threat. So they,
right.
But that's not the world that we live in. So the world that we live in, good men should be protecting women from other men, and that's okay.
Right.
And yes, I agree. I just still believe that those words have been weaponized to actually victimize women. Let's come up with better words. What's wrong with empower and collaborate?
Progressives love coming up with new words.
I know.
Always.
That's what being progressive is.
Always. The
Yes.
vocabulary becomes offensive, and it has
Yes.
to molt
How
and
is
move
that
into
bad?
a new shell of new vocabulary, because these have been corrupted for all time.
Let's use better words.
I love words.
Matter.
I love language, and I hate this idea that it's just this never-ending catering to the 1% that get offended by everything. So we all need to dismiss words.
Whoa. That's a meaty topic.
See, I'm trying to get the last of my conservative arguments out before the
Yes.
ring ends.
Yes, you are. All right. Did you have any more questions for me, sir?
I had one last question.
All right.
Is there a way that a man can provide for his family if they decide that's best, that's not automatically transactional?
Yes.
Where if a woman is 8 months pregnant or just had a baby and she can't work and she goes, hey, I would love if you were taking care of the bills. And they make that decision together. Is there a way that he can do that that doesn't automatically thrust her into some transactional relationship where he can't trust if she loves him?
Yeah. It's when you are collaborative and you're a team.
But he's still providing and protecting.
They decided together who's going to do what.
That he's going to provide and protect. Yes, they decided together he's going to provide and protect. And you're saying that's transactional.
They decide together that he's going to provide and protect in some ways, and she's going to provide and protect in other ways.
You know that most of the family units that were consciously decided upon, that it wasn't just the man saying, fuck you, this is the role I'm taking, and you get the scraps of whatever's left. That they went, hey, here's what I'm going to do, here's what you're going to do. Or, hey, honey, like, I want to have, we should start trying to have kids. And when that happens, what do you think about you quitting your secretary job? Let's just say this is back in the 60s or whatever. And I'll take care of us, and you take care of the kids. And she goes, I love that idea.
I don't think that was happening much in the 60s.
Really?
I think what was happening in the 60s is...
You don't think the average married man and woman weren't collaborating?
No. I think the average married man and woman were doing what society expected, and that meant the woman stayed home and popped out babies.
That's true, but you can still collaborate even when society is giving you limited options.
I don't think many were. I think that's the whole point. I think
I could point to both sets of my grandparents. They're madly in love. Both sets of grandparents, big collaborators. They both contributed to every inch of the house, whether it be she did the yard and he did this, or da-da-da-da. You don't think the average married couple collaborated?
I think the average married couple in the 50s was his way or the highway. Yeah, average. There are exceptions to every rule.
I agree that like back in the 50s, the average probably would have placed like the man as like the moral authority of the house, but you can still collaborate even when there's like an ultimate decision maker.
I think women are incredibly resilient and incredibly resourceful because they've been forced to be. And I think women over the millennia have found ways to exert influence and get what they want. Yes. I don't think it's all been like because they collaborated. I think it's a lot of manipulation, and I mean that in a good way. Like they did what they had to do to get their needs met to the best extent they could. I don't think that meant that the men were just happy to collaborate.
So would you say that the average like partnered man and woman back through history was not in love?
Probably not by today's standards, no. I mean, or not even by a definition I would espouse. I mean, I think romantic relationships have been mostly transactional throughout history. The idea of like...
They still are. I mean,
They-
depending on
very
how
much
you want to
so.
define transactional.
Yeah, I think the idea...
All relationships are transactional. I want to hang out with my friends because they make me laugh. Is that a transaction? You make me want to be a better man.
No.
And I like that.
I like that too. Thank you. No, the transaction...
Cha-ching!
the transaction is you don't get any pussy unless you do mow the lawn. That's a transaction. Not, hey, I like having sex and you like having sex. We should have sex whenever we both want to. That would be awesome. That's not a transaction. That's a collaboration. You know, so anytime those things turn into currency to be spent in exchange for something else. And I think that's what relationships have been mostly for a long time.
I totally see what you're saying, and I do agree. And there's probably a shockingly large amount of people who were not in collaborative relationships and who were in loveless marriages. But I also think we need to resist this temptation to be cynical and to say that like all men and women throughout history, because women couldn't have credit cards, hated each other and they didn't collaborate on things. It's like, I still believe in love. And I believe that like most of these people were drawn to each other for reasons of genuine chemistry, not always like, well, did you hear about the Charleston's daughter? She has many suitors, and there's a dowry for whatever man woos her. Like, I don't think it was all like that.
No.
I think there was a lot of love.
You are an optimist. And
I am.
And I love that.
I'm a romantic.
I love that. Yes.
Sorry, I need to get out of my... I'm conflicting the conservative Steelman.
Okay, let's close this out with, or maybe end the ring with this question. Does provide and protect do more good than harm?
That's tough.
Men who who legitimately want to take care of women, of course there's nothing wrong with that. Like, that's beautiful. That's good.
Okay, so are we ending the ring?
Yeah, you want to end the ring? Okay.
Yeah, because I want to have this conversation as me.
Okay.
So I remove the conservative Steelman hat and I put back on my own.
Nice. How did that feel, by the way? I could tell that some of those points you actually believe and you're passionate about, and then I could tell that a lot of it you were just doing the best you could.
Yeah, well, it's the thing I really like about what you and I are doing is because a lot of these arguments I might just like off the top of my head say I agree with one or the other. But quite often there are really good points that need to get made on both sides. And that's why these conversations are lasting forever. Because there are needs or things that are not being seen on one side. And then there are considerations not being made on the other. And as I was preparing for the traditional take on this, I did my best to formulate the argument that does represent most conservatives, but then there were a couple pieces that I was like, oh, there's one or two things that I don't need a Steelman. I very passionately want to advocate for this.
Yeah.
Like the identity markers thing is one that I'm like very passionate about, and one that I'm like kind of angry at progressive culture about. And it's one that I think is a holdout that like keeps people conservative.
Yeah.
And until it's addressed, there are a whole lot of people that you won't be able to convert to progressive ideals.
Okay, so talk more about that and maybe some examples other than provide and protect where progressives are stripping society of identity markers that have been beneficial to men or to anybody, I guess. That might be putting you on the spot. I'm not trying to do that. I'm just...
So obviously, each of these examples that I'll give, there's like a huge debate that could be had. But I'm just going to kind of speak to the surface level of it. Obviously, patriotism has become a word that has justified imperialism. And I don't like that. And that's something that has been a pattern throughout history. But like patriotism is an ideal and kind of an identity marker that in its best form is good. It shouldn't ever be bad for a person to try and consciously think about values that they want to embody. Like that's a good introspective exercise for anyone to do, whether it pertains to being an American, whether it pertains to having attended Berkeley or being from Utah or being a man or being Hispanic or, whatever it is. That's how culture is formed. Like all these different groups, all these different directions that life can come from have slightly different values. And that's why we have just like different opinions and different attitudes and different parties and different, all these things, And I like that. But I feel like progressives are very good at advocating for the groups who have previously been relegated to the margins of society and saying, hey, shut up to the men who have been in power forever. We're going to give these groups a minute to finally live out the experience that they have not been allowed to live. That's amazing. Yeah. It's why I consider myself a liberal, because that's probably one of the main issues that I care about for gay people, for women, for whoever it is. Just like there are so many stories that have just been erased from history. But the same reason that progressives are trying to honor those stories, it's like, yes, all people should have their stories honored. And I get that these people have never had their stories erased from history the way that these people have, but it doesn't change the fact that they still need a story. They still need to identify with this life in some sort of a way. And so to just constantly tell men to shut the hell up, it's like, you're creating more enemies than you are solving problems. Like you and I, if we ever get traction on this podcast, we're going to have a flood of comments from people who say things like, oh, 2 more white men, shut the hell up. We don't need another podcast.
Yeah.
And I understand where they're coming from, but at the same time, like we are well-intentioned. We are trying to do something productive here. We're not just like jerking off about our warrior myths. We're trying to do something good. So why is it that we are just automatically disqualified? Because the identity politics? I think you did a great job of arguing, because a lot of times conservatives tried to hide behind innocent things like, I'm just being patriotic. Oh, it's just provider and protector. When it's like they're actually perpetuating like a giant system that subjugates people. And so I think you did a really good job of calling that out. But were there any parts of the progressive take that you were like struggling to advocate for, where you might personally actually have disagreed?
That's a good question. I'm pretty passionate about this topic. I think where maybe we can start to agree is identity is important and can be very helpful. So really what you just talked about, it's hard to argue against that, right? It's hard to argue that a positive sense of identity and purpose is a bad thing for society, for men, for white men, for anybody. Mm-hmm. Like, how do you argue against that,
Yeah. I mean, like, not to always bring up the Germany during the 1930s, but like they did make arguments like this about Hitler Youth, where they were like, it gives boys a sense of purpose, mm-hmm. and they're learning wilderness survival skills, and they're learning how to tie knots. It's great. It's like, yeah, and mm-hmm. What else is coming with the seemingly innocent things that's giving these boys purpose?
Yeah, it's Trojan horsing in, to steal a phrase from you, a lot of bad things.
Right.
The biology argument is another one that gets tricky, because obviously you can't argue that biological females are physically designed to birth children, so there is a role that nature is assigning there. Mm-hmm. We didn't really talk about, we kind of brushed over it, but we didn't talk about the fact that 30% of Gen Z women have said that they don't want kids.
Wow.
That's up 50% from millennials, and it's up 100% from Gen X.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So Gen X was 15%, millennials were 20%, now it's 30%. Mm-hmm. So an ever-increasing segment of society doesn't care about having kids. So there's a pretty big segment of society now who that biological marker doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
So we're talking millions and millions of people that can't just be left out.
On that issue, the thing that I fucking wish conservatives would understand is in all of ecology, in all of everything, if there's a surplus and there's bounty, it always results in reproduction, whether it be plants getting a season of rain with an abundant rain, there will be more plants. If there is a village that has extra resources and an abundance, they will have more children.
Ishmael, you're quoting Ishmael.
All living things. And when they bring up this thing where it's like, why are people not wanting to have kids? It's the fucking economy, nothing else. I mean, not nothing else. There's obviously contributing factors, but it's like the number one thing. It's a universal truth that when there's abundance, people want to have kids. And when there's scarcity, you go, to hell with that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I am. Like, honestly, like if I had a much bigger amount of money in the bank, I wouldn't be reserved to not having kids. But I just understand, like, practically what reality is going to look like for me. And I choose not to sacrifice my life of financial stability to a life of financial instability.
Yeah. I think that's a part of it. We just have so much going on in society now, though.
Yeah.
That, like, up until very recently, it was like, well, what do you do with your life? You have kids, provide for them, get married, grow old, then your kids take care of you, and then you die. And, like, that's your life. And now it's like the whole world is open to a lot of people. I'm not going to say everybody because there's billions of people who it's not open to, but entertainment, media, the ability to travel, there's just so much more to do with life now, because I think a part of your decision about kids is probably due to that. Like, you and Keely have a really fun and fulfilling life together. You do the things that you want to do when you want to do them. And that, as much as finances, I think plays a role.
Totally.
Yeah. So back to this issue. If we answered the question yet, does provide and protect do more harm than good? Do you agree that it is legitimately used as a tool by the conservatives to Trojan horse misogyny?
Yes. Providing and protecting, it's a big aspect of just like a culture of conformity.
Yeah.
Where it's like, well, here, we create boxes, narrow boxes, and we put people into them. We create a very rigid sense of what purpose is for men and women, and go follow it. But I don't think that's necessarily, though, that men being providers and protectors is inherently toxic, but it's just that, like, that's the natural pattern that has always emerged. And so when you have a society that's trying to get, or like a government that's trying to get society to conform, you just go, okay, well, how about you conform to like the most prevalent pattern, and let's just not deviate.
Yeah. Other than the identity thing, was there anything else from the traditional side that actually you resonated with?
Well, I think this is probably, like, of all the political issues we could talk about, where biology makes one of the strongest arguments, because there are some, issues that we might talk about where it's like cringe to bring up biology. But this is one where it's like, well, yeah, we're talking about like mothers and we're talking about fathers, and it depends on the context, obviously, whether you're like picking berries in Mesopotamia or, whether it's modern. And there's a pretty solid argument that can be made no matter what, that like men are good providers and protectors often, not all the time. And women are literally built to deliver children, and to breastfeed them. And anyway, so it's interesting resonating with the biological point, because usually I reject it in other political issues. I say that's the low-hanging fruit. I'm going to make better claims. I care about sociology way more than like leaning on biology. It's kind of a weird thing that conservatives, I think, always do. They try to make a biological point with everything.
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, kind of like that.
Okay.
Yeah. Anything in my argument as the conservative that you resonated with? Because I know you don't really resonate with the identity marker thing as much as I do.
I don't. That's a personal thing for me. Like, I think I have just gotten so used to deconstructing and resisting those identity markers. I just don't give a fuck.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more like I have a lot of like very strong women in my life who I admire and care about. And so if one of them is like, oh yeah, don't say provide and protect, that sucks. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, you know, I don't feel some loss.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious. I'm like, oh, well, tell me why. Like that on its surface, that seems harmless or that seems good.
Mm-hmm.
Why does that bother you? And then when I hear these arguments of like, well, it assumes women can't take care of themselves. And by the way, women have been living in this society where they've been forced to be provided for by men in exchange for all this outsized labor. Then I'm like, oh, fuck, yeah, okay. I can see why that would trigger you. To have these men making $65,000 a year and think they're doing you this massive favor by letting you live in their house while you're doing $185,000 of work every year.
Mm-hmm. Especially because nowadays the woman could go out and get a job at that same income. Like,
right. Like who men just think they're God's gift because they fucking have a job.
mm-hmm.
The bar is like so low for men in so many ways. So yeah, that I'm like, okay, I don't care about that identity marker because I'm like, my identity marker is I just try to be the best person I can be. I try to be a good father. I try to be a good friend. I try to be a good partner, and I fuck up constantly at all of those things. But there's not any one thing that's like driving me. Like, oh, protect and provide. That'll keep me on track. You know. So it's just that's one of those arguments that just slides right off my back anecdotally.
Mm-hmm.
It means nothing to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Why do you think it resonates more with you?
I think, you know, I dealt with a period of time where my mental health was pretty rough, super depressed for like 3 years, and very apathetic. And apathy is not spoken about enough. Apathy is like the worst thing that you can experience as a human.
Yeah. It's the opposite of love.
I would disagree with that. I would say apathy is just the absence of anything, of any thought, of any value. And I remember in kind of the dregs of it, praying for lows. Like people talking about having lows and highs in their life. I was like, give me painful, sad, angry lows. I will take that over nothing.
Yeah.
And that's an awful feeling. And what that came from was deconstructing all the values and systems in my life until I got to rock bottom and then had nothing. And I was trying to continue deconstructing, but you can't deconstruct meaning into your life.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You have to change your mindset and move into a mindset of reconstruction. But you don't know that. And nihilism is just kind of a downward force that like you'll eventually hit bedrock and then apathy. And anyway, the identity markers, the reason that like I'm kind of passionate about it and like it just pulls at my heartstrings, the empathy for people who might be in this, is because that apathy comes from having no identity markers. Like that's the thing I would point to. It wasn't a chemical imbalance. It wasn't that there was trauma I needed to process. It was that I didn't have identity markers. Nothing in this life mattered to me because I had no system, nothing that I could fit myself into to populate a list of values. Oh, this is who I am. This is what I do. Like I had nothing. And that is an awful feeling. And so like, there's a lot of things that can help with that. Like having a job is a huge one. Mm-hmm. Just personally, I've noticed a pattern in me. Anytime I don't have a job, it's like a downward spiral on the mental health train. And so job does a great job of giving you purpose. But identity markers is just another huge thing, to feel like you have some purpose, some direction, some role to fulfill. And when that gets taken away from you, whether it be by your own deconstruction or whether it be by society saying that it's cringe to embrace whatever you might be embracing, you'll end up with nothing. And that's the closest I've ever been to killing myself. And so when I hear about like the suicide rates among men, I go, oh yeah, that makes sense. That's not just some weird statistic where I don't get it and it just feels like some foreign thing. I go, oh no, I know what that's like. I know what it's like to spend a lot of time in suicidal ideation, and I know how I got to that point exactly. And seeing the things that happen, I can see how other men got there. I can see how millions of men get there. And I know that I could be totally wrong. There's a debate to be had on like why men are actually suicidal. But like personally, the identity marker is like one of the number one things that I would point to.
I think I'm having trouble linking identity markers with a sense of purpose, because I think I
see those as very synonymous.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what you're saying, is that the identity markers help give you a sense of purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also coming in a way from a place of privilege, because I have my son is almost 18 years old. So when he was born, I was a much more conservative person, had all of these conservative like constructs and identity markers to make me feel like I had a lot of purpose. And as I've deconstructed those over the years, I've always had my kids to give me a sense of purpose.
Which is huge.
Huge.
Like biologically and psychologically.
Yeah.
Kids do something to your brain when it comes to this stuff.
Yeah. And this is not me trying to tell everybody they should have kids, but this is me saying I've never gone through that crisis of identity, because if I ever was struggling with identity, I was always a father.
Mm-hmm.
Always.
Right.
And so I never doubted.
Yeah. I think when I've talked to men who are in really rough mental spots, and contemplating suicide, one of the number one common denominator thoughts that they have is when they live alone and they've been single for years and they don't have kids or a partner, and there's this recurring thought of, if I died right now,
no one would care.
No one would care.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah.
And obviously, like, it's becoming more and more well known that like the number one important variable in having a happy, fulfilled life is the quality of your relationships. And having a kid is like one of the most obvious, strong, undeniable, important relationships that a person could possibly have in their life. Like, I'm probably not going to have kids, and I don't think I will ever have a relationship that can at all compare to your relationship with your daughters.
That's an interesting point. No, I don't think other relationships can ever be the same as kids, but I think other relationships can be just as meaningful or just as important or just as powerful. But it is a different and irreplaceable dynamic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think about each of my kids individually every single day and their welfare and wonder what they're doing, like it is deep and innate. And I think about there are other people in my life, I'd say you're included, who I probably think about every day, like to some extent or another. In part
late at night.
Well, I was hoping you'd go there.
This journal is full of
Ooh.
Charlie. Sorry, go on.
But yeah, we interact a lot, and so that seems natural. But I feel like if I stopped interacting with all my kids today, heaven forbid, I would think about them every day for the rest of my life still. Mm-hmm. And if you and I stopped interacting after some period of time, it wouldn't be like that. Mm-hmm. And that's maybe the difference.
Yeah. A point that I do want to just quickly make is that having kids is not some sort of a cure-all to these problems, because I'm sure that there might be a mother or a father who's listening to this who's like, hey, I'm suicidal and I have kids. I've had friends that have been suicidal and had kids. So it's definitely not some sort of a cure.
I almost, this is a weird comparison, but I look at kids the same way as I look at money. Money is a magnifier. Like, if you are really unhappy, having a bunch of money will just make you more unhappy in different ways. But if you're happy, having a bunch of money can unlock a lot of cool things that make you even more happy. I think kids are the same way. Like if you're just an unhappy, miserable piece of shit, then having kids is not going to help with that.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
you're just going to make them unhappy and miserable.
Yeah, and that's why the conversations around like identity markers and purpose and how we help people find that is something that's like one of the things I'm most passionate about. And that conversation should never stop. Just because you have a kid doesn't mean like suddenly you should stop pursuing like what your view of existence is and like what you want this life to mean. I love talking about that conversation, even when I already have a life very imbued with purpose and meaning. I still like. It's one of my favorite conversations.
It should give you more inspiration to do it.
Yeah.
That's what it does for me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It definitely, it appreciates.
Okay, so what are some of our takeaways?
We kind of hinted at it a little bit, but personally, I think most of the bad things about providing and protecting has come from religion. Because I think that you can value providing and protecting as just like, and gender roles in a secular way without it turning into like women becoming property.
Yeah.
But it did.
Yeah.
And I think that's because religion got its hands on it and then kind of turned it into these gender roles that like people kind of like resonate with. And it's like, yeah, but then you don't realize that by buying into it, you're, you know, the Trojan horse is making it in.
Yeah. Is it realistic to reclaim these words, kind of the way that you and I were talking about on the phone, of like, okay, we both agree that true providing and protecting is actually getting to know women and what their concerns are, what their needs actually are, empowering them, collaborating, being a partnership, being on the same team. And sometimes that's going to mean listening to biology. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's going to mean that women or men are just better at certain things, whether that's in general or within a partnership, and we do that. So, you know, is it realistic to reclaim those words and say, yes, men, it's okay to have that identity of being a provider and a protector, but let's educate you on what that actually means? Or are the words just too offensive to women? The damage has already been done, that we do need to do the progressive thing and come up with new words. You know, what do you think?
There are like other issues where I would say maybe we need to just come up with new words, but this is one that I don't think we do. The provider and protector thing, it probably has more historical precedent than anything else.
Yeah.
Like if we're trying to decide on like a non-offensive word that's like a racial slur or something, well, then, like, yeah, we could do away with words because those maybe have like a couple hundred years of context. But provider protector is something that goes back thousands of years. And it's so open-ended. Like, those are very generic words. And I personally would rather reclaim words rather than invent new ones. Like, you know, what I'm doing right now with spiritual atheism, you know, a lot of people might hear spiritual atheism and be like, that's an oxymoron. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I personally, I really like the idea of reclaiming what spirituality means from the Mormon church that kind of took the word from me.
Oh yeah, that's a very triggering word.
And they very much, religion does this thing where they make you think that they have a corner market on introspection, that feelings are religious inherently, that love is the love of God. Mm-hmm. And that just loving your wife is God vicariously. All these things, they make it feel like there literally is no life to live outside of religion.
Yeah.
But then you get out of religion, you go, oh my gosh, all of these things are just like natural and human, and here they are, and that religion could disappear off the face of the map. And what do you know? We still have all these wonderful, beautiful things. Yeah. They just try to claim it as their own. Anyway, so when it comes to spirituality, I really, because I thought about this, where I was starting to pursue spiritual atheism and becoming a spiritual director, which anyone who knows me and how much of an atheist I am, they think that's crazy.
What?
But it's because like I realized that the word spirituality is like really beautiful and it has so much context and precedent. And I was like, I would rather reclaim that word for myself rather than let the opportunists in the temples take it away from me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I like that. What that tells me, though, is spirituality is a triggering word for you. You get to make the decision if that's a word that can be reclaimed or not. I would love to get some female voices on this. Because my personal opinion is, hey, let's use this. Let's use the fact that conservatives are telling young men to be providers and protectors. So let's take advantage of it. Let's just redefine what that means. And anytime we can talk with a young man in particular who's trying to find his way, we can say, yes, the desire to provide and protect for other people is beautiful and great. And here's how you do it. You do it by empowering them, by being partners, true partners. You do it by supporting policy at a government level, at an economic level that actually benefits these people. Here's how you do it. That's what I want to do.
Yeah, and here's the thing is I also think that a lot of women probably also value the term.
They do.
You know?
There are a lot of conservative women out there. And you know, a lot who aren't offended by these terms.
Yeah, I'd say a lot of conservative women who feel positive about it, and then I would say there's probably a very good amount of liberal women who are indifferent to it,
right?
And they're not. They don't think it's offensive, and they're just like, oh, sure,
yeah, whatever.
If men resonate with that, cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't like the idea of us like let's toss this out to cater to the 10% who's outraged.
Yeah.
And because like men do resonate with it, especially conservative men. And so conservatives do not like new words. They are the last people to adopt new language.
That's why they're conservatives.
Like I would much rather, like if I was sitting with a super staunch conservative right now, I would much rather take the approach with them of saying, hey, let's redefine what provide and protect means, and let's get creative with a list of different ways that could manifest in your life. That's a much easier conversation than saying, hey, how about we drop those words and we brainstorm different words that mean the same thing.
We're going to change it to empower and collaborate.
Yeah. They'd be like, fuck your liberal bullshit. Yeah. So I like the idea of reclaiming more. And and it is fun to think about like all the creative ways that a person can provide and protect. And it doesn't just have to be men. The more creative you get, the less weight the biological argument holds. Because if we're talking very simply like women create the babies and men build the log cabin, then you're like, oh yeah, the biological argument makes a lot of sense. But as soon as we get into like, oh, protecting can be like protecting them in court, and providing can be, going around and giving sandwiches to the homeless. Well, then suddenly the biological thing is ridiculous.
Yeah, anybody can do any of those things.
And I like that.
Yeah.
I like leaning into how we can be more creative as humans and more diverse in our ideas rather than like narrowing what things mean.
Yeah, I agree.
This is a point we didn't really touch on a ton, but I think part of why men have lost provider and protector as an identity marker is because women are more self-sufficient now. And so it's not even about like liberal outrage saying don't use that as an identity marker, but it's just because that spectrum of how much of a hero are you, it's waning.
It is.
Because men are showing up on these dates with women who are making a lot of money and who don't need protection.
Don't need you.
So suddenly, like the thing that you resonate with, that you identify with in your life, I don't need it.
Well, so that's an important part of the argument that I probably erroneously didn't get into, which is the other thing that gets me fired up about provide and protect is I think it's an excuse for men to be lazy. It's like, I've always been able to get by on having a good job and being attractive in that way. Well, now that women have more power, suddenly they want me to have a personality. They want me to be funny. They want me to be entertaining. They want me to be interesting and well-rounded.
Yep.
And like before, all I had to do was have a good job.
Yep. It's like, wait, this is what I brought to the table, and now you're telling me it's not worth as much?
Right. Yeah. And our society has told men that for generations. And so now it's like a bait and switch a little bit for men. It's kind of like when you graduated college with $100,000 in student loan debt and you couldn't get a job, you're like, wait, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And that's what men are experiencing right now. And I think that's leading to that identity
Totally.
crisis.
That's a great analogy.
They're like, I thought I
yeah.
just had to have a good job.
I was misled into thinking that, like, if I did this thing, it would give me some sort of security out in the system. And you're telling me that no one cares
Right.
about my degree?
Right. And then the conservatives get mad at women for that.
Right.
Like, well, shame on them for getting jobs and education.
Yeah, how
like
dare they
being
be self-sufficient?
Yeah. Last thing I'll say, this is where it gets personal for me,
Okay.
is I was married for 20 years, and as the marriage fell apart, and we had conversations about it, we meaning my ex-wife and I, one of her complaints was, hey, we did this thing 20 years ago where we made these decisions based upon these roles, and turns out it's not really what I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And I gave up my whole identity to be a part of that. And now we're getting divorced, and who am I? I don't have an education. I don't have any job experience. She was upset with me for creating a situation where she was dependent upon me.
Mm-hmm.
And it turned into a transactional relationship. And I personally saw what happens when your relationship turns transactional and the love goes away.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's taken me until very recently to see that. When she told me that, I was deeply offended and took it personally. Well, all I ever wanted to do was provide and protect you. Mm-hmm. All I ever wanted to do was give you the opportunity to have kids if you wanted them, to do that in any collaborative way you wanted. And I like to think I was pretty progressive about it even then, and trying to give her as much autonomy as possible. But still, I created a situation where she was dependent upon me, and then the love went away because it became transactional, and then she was left to fend for herself without the skills and experience to do that. And she had great, and still has great, resentment toward me for that. And it took a dating relationship that had some of those same things happen, where I was in a situation with somebody who I cared deeply about, who was dependent upon me and resented me for it. Mm-hmm. It took that to sort of wake me up to my ex-wife's feelings of being more valid than I gave them credit for. And so it's only been probably till the last couple of years where I've realized how deadly of a trap that provide and protect dependency that gets created can actually be. Damn. And like, that's why I think that's why it's deeply personal.
Yeah.
You know,
you saved that for the very end. That's so good.
Yeah. I just, I hadn't really planned to talk about it, but parts of my argument that really resonated for me were that idea of creating dependency and how that's not actually providing and protecting.
That's a great point.
Yeah. So that's why I'm trying now to be all about empowerment, collaboration,
equity.
Mm-hmm. Teach them to fish instead of giving them a fish.
Yeah.
Because love is just simply being invested in the spiritual growth of another person.
Yeah.
Period.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that involves you or benefits you or not.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I've had to learn as a parent too, is I chose to bring those kids into the world. So my job is to do that. And it doesn't matter what I get out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's what real romantic love is too, is caring about your partner so much that you just want them to be happy, fulfilled, independent, safe, independent of you. That's like the ultimate expression of love. I think it's the ultimate gift I think you can give to somebody is empowerment. And then if they choose not to be with you anymore because something else makes them happier, like, oh well,
Yeah.
that's it. It's part of it.
Wow. I love that. I think it's really beautiful. And it also is going to be a very key piece when we talk about monogamy versus polyamory.
Ooh, baby. Good segue.
Yeah.
Is that our next episode, or are we going to do body count or something else?
Body counts in 2 episodes.
Okay. Yeah, that's right, because you're going to be
This is
traditional.
episode 6. That will be episode 8.
Okay.
So episode 7 will be something else.
All right. Well, we'll figure out.
So
what
we
that is.
we can't tease it right now because
we
we
can't.
have not decided. But we've got time. All right.
All right.
Well, thanks for joining us on this particular episode, and we will see you on the next one. How do we sign off? I've forgotten. Get out of here. Get the fuck out of here, you weirdos.
Go fuck yourself, San Diego.
Fallacies.